Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Radical Geek Live. I see there's lots of people already in the chat. And so, hello, we've got Keith and Shelley, we've got Rhonda, and we've got Karen, and Jerry, who wasn't going to make it, but looks like he'll be able to hang out with us for at least a little while. And Rhonda. And let's see. Oh, and Becca. Hi, Becca. It's nice to see you here. So, just so if you're new, usually what happens is we have basically a lot of chat, and I talk to you about my hot beverage of the week and a little bit of a treat that I usually have with it that often pairs with that beverage. And we just sort of go through all the details, and then we spend some time kind of bullshitting like, well, that's what friends do, right? So that's basically everything. And so tonight we're going to be talking about the Aeropress, which you'll be surprised, but this little container right here is the entire coffee maker. And we'll talk a little more about that. So while we work on getting started, thought I would share like a little bit of an amusing moment of panic I had earlier this morning. I just realized that on Monday the 29th, which is just after Thanksgiving, I'm supposed to go to the office, and we're having meetings and talking to some high-level executives, which means looking nice. And I have not worn nice pants or even button zip pants since we left the office in March of 2020. And since then, when we left the office, I was probably about 118 pounds, and now I'm comfortable at 104 pounds, and I'm pretty sure none of those pants fit because they were already getting loose. So now I've really got to figure out something to do in the next couple days. I did have to go to like a fancy dinner to meet some other people for my new promotion, and I kind of wore my leggings and I used like a wrap skirt and just wore that with a little sweater. So I might have to do that again, but honestly I'm probably going to have to do something because I kind of partway through the dinner had to go and like emergency safety pin it snug. So it's like those both good and bad moments. Hi Lisa, no worries about being late. We're super casual here, and I love to run my mouth, so it's not like it impacts anything. Oh, Becca is talking about her cat being coy. Oh, and not wanting her to watch on the tablet and begging for attention, and that is my cat all over the place. Also my dog. So, but they stay upstairs when I do the live streams, and I come down because I don't want a cat on my table. So, okay, Lisa's gonna go fix dinner. Let's see. Hoofenet is talking about a ride they took yesterday. Man, I don't know how you guys are doing it. It must be way warmer there, or you're just way tougher than me. I am not riding outside for nothing. I even thought about whether I would ride to the office on Monday the 29th, thinking that would give me the nice excuse to say like, well, you know, I rode my bike in, good citizen and all that jazz, but no, it's well below 30, forget it. I'm driving, so now I have to find parking too because we don't have corporate parking anymore because they got rid of it. So it'll be interesting times. I have to say I'm not excited, and I'm glad that going to the office is not going to be a regular thing, but once a quarter probably, so it'll be interesting. So at any rate, let's see what else we got going on, because I see, well, everybody's really chatty. Lisa's making dinner. Oh, hi Mary, nice to see you join us. And let's see. She says she can't say the people west of them are doing as well as the rest of us. More rain coming. Yeah, the weather is really bad in a lot of areas right now. Well, and Shelley mentions that Karen is a superwoman. I agree. It is just, she just goes out there and does everything. I know even when we were at Keto Palooza, when we were all biking, the day that I went out in the early morning because I didn't want to go outside in the afternoon humidity, just as I was getting back and then had gone for a quick little walk, they were heading out to brave it. That was pretty intense too. So, but yeah, I'm real glad that you're doing good, Mary. So, as I said, tonight I have the Aeropress. This is actually the Aeropress Go. So it's one that they made specifically for travel. Not that the regular Aeropress is not made for travel. It's totally awesome and completely portable. So I see Jerry says has to brag about their weather again. It's 81 in Arizona. I gotta admit, there are a lot of times when I wonder if I want to move back that direction. But because I really did love Tucson an awful lot, and it is so gorgeous there. Oh, hey, Shauna has joined us for at least for a little bit. That she's going to a movie with her friends, so you know that's going to be like 3 different times now where Shauna has skipped out on us to go have fun with her real friends, her real life friends, local friends. But no offense, but if I had that opportunity, I probably would too. So, at any rate, Aeropress Go, the main difference is that it comes in this little plastic container that doubles as your brew pot. I'm actually not going to use that tonight because it's so cool to see it brew. I have my cup here, and these cups come in 2 packs. They're the Bodum glass double insulated, and they're really thick and really sturdy. With the Aeropress, you want to make sure that the cup that you're brewing in, because it's a single cup brewer, is a good sturdy one, not one that is prone to wobbling. So if you're not going to use a little teacup, even if you're only doing an espresso brew. So, but the Aeropress Go comes with everything you need, just like the regular Aeropress, with the main addition being 3 little things. The lid, which is a little silicone soft rubber that they mean for you to use to set your spoons and stuff in while you're using it. The actual Aeropress, which is what you get with your regular Aeropress, that has your little canister and your plunger, and the actual, and then the cylinder that you'll be pressing into. It also comes with this little handy dandy filter carrier, so you can have a few little filters in there. But it is real small, so when I travel, I still need more filters. The filters are just these little tiny circle paper filters. And I am going to tonight just do a super basic brew for what I consider my regular cup of coffee. And however, you should know that the original Aeropress brew made by the designer is a very concentrated little concentrated coffee, very similar to an espresso, and usually you would go through and you can add things to it, make yourself a latte or a cappuccino. But I'm all about making myself just a one singular nice cup. We'll talk about all kinds of stuff too, but with the filters you can do all kinds of things. Some people pre-soak them in water, some people double them up. There are much fancier versions of filters that are very cushiony, and have multiple layers. There are permanent filters which are nice as well, but I don't have one. I used to have one, but I don't find it, so I don't know if I left it in a hotel somewhere. Could be anywhere really. Let's see what we've got here in the chat. We'll take a moment. Karen mentions that it's not 30 where she is, but they do have mid to upper 50s right now, and the next week's going to be amazing. But she has to work extra, so it might impact the ability to ride. Let's see. Shauna, the more I give you any crap, it just means we like you more. But Shauna does mention that she's just waiting to go to dinner. Attila has joined our chat, and he mentions he wants to know how many times, this is a question for Jerry, did the plane sink into the tarmac in Arizona? So, well, we love you too, Shauna. That's why we give you such a hard time. Oh, and Mary mentioned she likes the background. Yeah, originally I had a very nerdy background, but I could not clear the shadow out of it, and so I finally gave up and went with a mountain scene, which I thought was really appropriate for Aeropress, which a lot of hikers, cyclists, mountain bikers, people who are really outdoorsy, you take it camping, because it's not glass, it's plastic, so no problem. So, yep. Oh yeah, Michelle mentions she had a little technical difficulty. Sorry about that, Michelle. Yeah, that kind of just goes to the channel, but you do have to go into YouTube directly for the most part. Mary is asking if I prefer the permanent filter and whether it makes a difference, and so 2 answers there. Do I think it makes a difference? Yes, but I am uber into coffee. Does it actually make a difference? I'm going to say if you're an average coffee drinker and not like super getting into extra bougie little tiny taste and analyzing it right from the very down to the very nitty-gritty, no, it does not. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about whys and such with that, but basically you take your filter and you put it into this little cup with the holes at the bottom. There it is, and it just clips right in, and you're ready to go. I have tonight's I have ground my coffee. We have to smell it. It hasn't been ground for very long, and I wish I could kind of let you see the grind. I've used a pretty small grind, and it doesn't look like it in the camera, but it's pretty small. It's not espresso small, but it's still fine. And if you have a burr grinder, you want it on the 3, which is like 2 grinds above the espresso grind. So 3, and yeah, so, and then what you do also somewhere, oh, there they are. Also, things that come with your Aeropress, their coffee scoop and a little stir for when we're brewing, which we'll show you in just a minute. But all you do is you're going to take and when we say heaping, I mean a very big piled scoop. I know a lot of times I get really uptight and I tell you guys measuring and weighing and all of that stuff counts, and it does. But in this case, this is the very scientific message here. Method, not message. And you put your coffee in and set it in your, I'm going to set it on the plate. You give it a little shake to kind of even it all out into there. And you stick it right on top of your glass that you're going to brew into. I have a little bit of extra grinds that I grind. I'm going to throw that in with my slightly coarser grind of the same blend later for our drip coffee in the morning. This is a Mothman blend. It's a heavy dark roast, and it comes from our local roaster, Silverbridge Coffee. So the next step in that, and I want to make sure that I get my water correct, is I know I gave you guys lectures about using the gooseneck for better control, but today temperature is more important to me, so I'm using my electric kettle that can hold it to a certain temperature, and I'm going with 140 degrees, and that is because I'm doing the dark roast. And look at the chat flying. Attila's making a smarty pants joke, as per usual. Oh, Jerry says he loves being bougie. Me too. A lot. Caboodle Bree has joined us, and Susan has joined us. Greetings, everybody. So it's nice to see you guys. Hey, Lisa, welcome back. What are you having for dinner, Lisa? At any rate, I'm going to go ahead and start this. I've got my kettle. Now, the way you brew in the Aeropress comes down to so many personal preferences. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But literally, it seems like there shouldn't be, but thousands of Aeropress recipes. And you can brew it so many different ways. And we'll circle back to when things go wrong with your Aeropress, which you never know, could be tonight. I've made it wrong before. So, but you want to actually go, oh, I'm almost forgetting the important part. You know how I said we didn't have to weigh the coffee? We do need to weigh the water though. So I've got my scale, put it on here, give it a tare. I'm looking for 200 milliliters of water, which is the same thing as 200 grams. Oh, Lisa's having keto chili dogs. That sounds great. All of these foods, I'm like, oh, I would like to have that too, but I just made a giant turkey. So we'll be eating that. And I'm going to pour my water. Now, some people will tell you to pour it slow and bloom it, but as you can see, it's leaking through. And so I am going to stop for a second because that's way too fast. And I want it to sit for a minute and absorb. But you see it's starting to get coffee-fied. But I don't want it to all brew through there before it's had a chance to develop. When this happens though, that's a good indicator that you might want to make your grind a little smaller next time. In my case, I'm just going to wait a second before I fill up the rest of the water. And then we will let it, because that will bloom the coffee and firm it up. And always, just like always, water. You want water to cleanse your palate and also to, when you're thirsty, to drink along with your coffee. So I'm just going to give it a second here. But you see now the initial drip through the coffee, it slowed way down mostly because the water has sucked up into the grounds, blooming it just like gelatin. And more is going to pour right through the minute I pour some more, but we're going to be relatively, what you want to be is relatively quick about it. And I just need to pay attention for a minute, guys. There's my 200 milliliters. You put your plunger on and you push down, which makes it go through, but you're not pushing to brew, so you're going to pull it back up. And now I have to start a timer because we're going to wait 2 minutes. 2 minutes is my preference. And let me just get that going. There we go. But what that does is when you push down, it pushes some through, but then you pull it back up. And that creates that little seal and prevents it from dripping down. Do I take my, and Becca is asking if I take my scale when I travel. And the answer is yes, I am so uptight that I take my scale with me. But it's not just for coffee. I use my scale for all kinds of things. I use it to weigh when I'm making my waffles or when I'm making my keto chow or any other thing. So I am that person. I'd have too much luggage. So, which is, at least I am easy to pack from the clothes wise because it's leggings and t-shirts, and then I usually take one nice thing just in case there's an emergency. Let's see, what do we got here? Keto. Oh, and Michelle has joined us, so welcome, Michelle. Let's see. I have to squint just a little bit. For some reason tonight it's hard for me to see the screen. Oh, Michelle says that a local news had a bow hunter get bit by a bear. A bear? Oh, they have to pay more attention. This is another fun family fact. I mentioned that one of my in our group that one of our when my uncle has a snake ranch out near Alamogordo, but my other cousin is a hunting guidesman in Montana. And I'm pretty sure that if somebody got bit by a bear, they were doing something dumb that they shouldn't have been doing. So you can see like a little bit more has dropped, but as you can, well, I don't know if you can see on the screen, but it is getting richer and darker in the color as it develops. I've got 7 seconds now. I'm going to go ahead and do a little swirl. And what this does is make the grounds that have maybe separated or floated to the top settle down just a little bit. Get rid of my scale because I won't be using it. And now you plunge. And you just apply steady, even pressure. Sometimes I see people on channels and stuff where they're going and they're like shoving down and cramming it all through there. You just apply, you don't need a lot of pressure. If you're having to apply that much pressure, you've probably ground your grounds too much. They're overground, and that's why there's too much air in there. So the main difference between the Aeropress and the French press is the infusion process and the high level of pressure. But mostly the biggest difference is the flavor and the portability. Also, the grounds never touch inside your they don't float up inside. They are kept very secure by the filter, whereas there's not a filter in the press. It's just the I mean, there is a filter, but it's not like the paper filter which keeps the grounds out. You do get grounds in your French press coffee. This is sort of like the hybrid between French press and pour over. By the way, I've done this, and as you can see, it's not a huge cup of coffee, but it's a perfectly nice, lovely cup. Now you get, because of the pressure, you pull up again, and the reason you do that, ta-da, no dripping. And you just take it, and there you go, you set it aside, it's ready to clean. I kind of wish that I had brought another little bowl. Actually, I'll probably just dump it on the plate to show you how easy it is to clean. Look, I haven't even got to the fun nerd stuff. So, Older Pennsylvania has joined. Good evening. And they mentioned that they've lived in Alamogordo for a year, and it was the longest year of their lives. I loved Alamogordo, but I didn't have to live there. My grandparents lived there. And of course, like I said, I have my uncle with the ranch, and, you know, so not living there and only being a small child. Anyways, all I did was I took off this puck. I took off the cap. You see that I've got the filter and the coffee beneath it. When you're ready to clean, you're going to just give it a little shove and dump. The whole stuff comes right out. One big piece. And all you're going to do is you'll give this a good rinse. Then you'll pull it back out through, give the whole cylinder a rinse, and boom, you are done. And give this a rinse as well. That's it for the whole 9 yards, and that is what makes it so great. It's probably better if you pay attention and you don't jump everything into the grounds, but easy solved. That's why we have napkins. So, okay, I had just like made like a giant mess. Good thing that everything is washable here. And the Aeropress uses a lot of pressure to make the coffee, and the French press is not pressurized. It is literally pushing down on the grounds to infuse into the water. So oh God, that is just good. I'm sorry, I had to take a moment. So that is why that is my preferred method for the Aeropress coffee. They are not lying when they say this could be like one of the best cups around. It is a good cup of coffee. So, So Lisa mentions that she's never tried French press coffee or pour over coffee. That's okay, Lisa. There's lots of ways to have coffee. Hundreds of thousands of ways to have coffee and enjoy it. Now, if you haven't tried French press or pour over, I wouldn't necessarily run out and buy the equipment, but if you have the opportunity to give it a try, absolutely I would, because it's all such a wonderful, unique experience. It's not getting cold because it's a double wall insulated glass mug. That really helps keep the warmth in. It's super nice. And by the way, these are a Bodum brand. I don't remember if I put them on my webpage or not, but I did put a few little coffee things, including the Aeropress Go, on there. So if you go to radicalgeek.org onto the shopping page, you can absolutely go through. And Mary says, I make the coffee look good, but let me tell you, with the Aeropress, it's not me. It is that good. So, oh, it's a big flavor punch, and it really isn't that much. It doesn't that much coffee. It looks like it because of the scoop, but it's what you would make for an average cup. And I will say that these are big mugs for a very concentrated coffee. So, I do prefer black coffee. I don't usually use any creamer, except for when I tried those 2 weeks of the BBBE plan. Then I super needed butter coffee, and it was everything. And I don't know why that particular eating regimen made me crave that. So good. So, now to the nerdy part. Now that I have my coffee, I wanted my coffee super bad, so we did that first. So, I do see that Michelle is asking which type of coffee I use, and just, I use a huge variety of coffee. And that's the other thing with the Aeropress. It's not beholden to a particular type of coffee. You find which way the brew works for you. I know some people who like a light roast. I prefer the dark roast. I know people who like it strong and bitter. I know people who like it light and mellow. I know people who will only use half the amount of water I did and make the concentrated espresso, and then they add water to make the Americano. Some of them just drink the concentrate. You name it. It is all personal preference. So, unfortunately, and I do tend to stick to some local roasters here because we have such good ones. I'm not sure why we became this town that has a really very high-end sort of coffee roasting culture, but we do. We have Silverbridge, Bumblebee, and Brioso coffee, and they are all really high-end coffee roasters. So, and Caboodle Bry is asking what kind of grind I used, and just to reiterate, I used number 3 on the burr grinder, and that is 2 steps above the espresso grind. Now, tonight, for whatever reason, it seemed to be a little fast initially. I might bump it down to 2 just for my personal preference, but 3 is really very average, and it's a nice rich dark color. It looks lighter on the camera. Well, there you go. You can sort of see it, but I think all the bright lights from lighting our little basement studio area kind of misleads on coloration. So the nerd part here we'll talk about now. So past several streams we've talked about coffee. We started all the way back in year 1000, the original coffee, the Turkish coffee, and we've been slowly forwarding through the times, only I've skipped like a whole section in between, which we'll come back to, and I brought us into the future with the Aeropress. The Aeropress was only released to the public in the year 2005. It is a brand new way, a brand new method, and the coolest part about the Aeropress is not actually the Aeropress, even though it is what most coffee experts like to talk about and proclaim to be maybe the best cup of coffee ever. So, oh, and Caboodle Bry has said that he can see the color of the coffee, so that's good to know. So anyways, back to the whole about the Aeropress. The coolest part about it is not that it is such an amazing brew method that produces such a great cup of coffee. It's actually the inventor. The inventor of the Aeropress coffee is a man named Alan Alda. And I don't know if Jerry had to leave yet or not. He's been quiet, so I suspect the answer to that is yes. But I'm pretty sure he may know who Alan Alda is. Yeah, I'd say it is better than the pour over if you get it just right. And tonight I got it just right. Yesterday I used the Aeropress and I had one where I didn't grind right and I was like, this weak ass coffee. But it still tasted good. But yeah, I do think it's better than the pour over. The pour over is usually still my favorite, although I do think this is technically better. Oh, so Jerry's still here. So yeah, so the coolest thing about the Aeropress is their inventor, Alan Alda. Alan Alda is an inventing genius. I don't even know how to describe how amazing he is. And I'm shocked to hear that Jerry doesn't know who he is. But so that's what makes it exciting, because so far Jerry has been able to match me fact for fact and teach me a few things along the way. So let's see. Oh, Susan B has just mentioned that she will have pour over at her son's house this week. So that'll be awesome. So Alan Alda, he's an inventor and an engineering genius. But the best part about his genius is that it is 100% self-taught. So he didn't go to school. He learned everything on his own. But even though he was self-taught, he's such a miraculous engineer that he has a lot of honorary degrees now, but he's given lectures on engineering at NASA, at Google, at Caltech, at Princeton. So he's the shit. He's also invented a lot of instruments for military aircraft, for submarines, and even for nuclear reactors. And one time when we do our nerd chats, I am going to get so excited and I'm going to tell you guys everything I know about nuclear energy. So, and just to warn you ahead of time, it will be very surprising, but also I work in utilities, so I'm not a dummy when I talk about it. So it'll be a fun, really geeky talk. But back to Alan Alda. So he's this magical mechanical engineer with all of this massive excess, and one day he decides to go design some sailboats because he's really into aerodynamics. So he does these amazing, he advances sailboating and the aerodynamic technology in sailboating by a few decades with the geniusness of his events. Then, like all genius, he does something extra wacky and he decides to go make toys. Toys, which I'm in favor of toys, but so he works for a company called Aeropress and invents the Aeropress flying disc, along with several other very aerodynamic toys like the football with a fin and some other things too. But the Aeropress flying disc came out in 1984, and when it hit the stores, initially is kind of like, what the heck is this? Because it's this little ring and it's very flat, but very quickly you discover that it is pretty fucking amazing. Sorry for my language. I'm going to drop the F-bomb there, but it does. It is amazing, and it is renowned for its engineering and aerodynamics. It flies smooth and easy. It goes farther than any Frisbee. People really take to it because in 1984, to put in modern terms, what happened with it in 1984 is it went massively viral. And it was such an amazing piece of engineering that it got put into the Guinness Book of World Records because it flew literally thousands of feet further than any Frisbee has ever flown before, and it has never been matched, nothing even close to it. So this amazing mechanical engineer has now made history in the toy industry, and he continues to do so with other products, but none were ever quite as successful as the Aeropress flying disc. Now, eventually, I think it was like 2015. Aeropress was sold to someone else, and they changed their name. And Alan Alda went on to something new, and hence the Aeropress in 2005. So literally, everything the man does is just sheer genius. So, and to put it in a scale of his genius, most people who do kind of inventing wind up with a patent, maybe 2. He holds over 40 patents for the kind of gadgets and mechanical engineering inventions that he has completed, and uniquely so. That is so far beyond what most people do. So that is why I said the most amazing thing about the Aeropress was not the Aeropress, even though it's impressive. Yeah. Oh, and Jerry mentions that he remembers the Aeropress flying disc. So and Heath is asking if they use it in disc golf, and the answer is no. It's not the right tool for disc golf. Disc golf uses smaller frisbees that do smaller distances. In disc golf, you're only going, you're making targets, but the Aeropress would actually way overshoot them. It would be basically a waste to use the Aeropress. So, yeah, so that was like the very cool part. I'm super excited by Alan Alda because of his advances in engineering. And Jerry says it would have been funny if he called the Aeropress Hawkeye because his name is very similar to Alan Alda. So, and I did see several people mentioning that they were thinking about MASH and Alan Alda. Oh my gosh, look guys, it's Miriam, the most amazing person that in the world. Don't you just love Miriam? At any rate, so I have to take another drink of my awesome coffee, so bear with me a minute. You guys, I got so lucky. I hit it just right tonight. I kind of figured that because we were doing the live stream, which means I'm distracted and looking at comments and trying to remember what I'm supposed to say, that I might screw it up a little bit with my impatience. But I did not. It is just perfection. Just going to take a moment there. So, now about the Aeropress. When I said earlier that coffee aficionados love the Aeropress more than just a little bit, I mean, not only has it only been around since 2005, but the coffee world has found it so amazing that we already have a world championship competition that happens repeatedly. It's an annual event, and over 60 countries, to talk about how widely and popular this is, participate in that. Coffee professionals go to compete with the Aeropress, creating their recipes. And yes, the event is fan run, but it is not fan judged. It is judged by the coffee people, the Q graders. Q graders are to the coffee world what a high-end sommelier is to wine. They are very serious about their coffee, and not just a little bit. They're all in. They have to go to school. They are intensely trained. And in the United States, Q graders are certified and trained by the California Quality Institute. Oh, Miriam is complimenting my setup. Thank you, Miriam. Rhonda's asking me to deliver a cup. You know what? I would, and I tell you what, when I get to NOLA sometime in 2022, I will bring my Aeropress with me and make you a cup. So, there's that. Now, so the Q graders actually judge this competition, and let me tell you, it is some very intense. Now, I will also say, being a lot of coffee drinkers, they are also some party animals, so there is that element of the competition as well. I'm pretty good on my coffee, but I am not good enough to go to a championship and compete. I don't know that I even aspire to do such a thing. I just want to have my own little coffee hobby and talk about it with my friends, and occasionally some coffee aficionados, but probably not a Q grader. So I do hang out with a lot of coffee people for some reason, but that just worked out in my good luck. So anyway, so they go, and each year at the championship is usually sponsored by, it's fan run, but sponsored by a coffee maker, and usually it's a high-end roaster that has the roast of the year, and they bring the roaster, so everybody is on a level playing field. Everybody has the same filter, everybody gets the same coffee, everybody has the same grinder, although they can choose how to grind the coffee, they can choose the temperature of the water. Everybody has all the equipment and the actual coffee bean the same. But the variety that comes out of this brewer is amazing. So each year they all taste a lot of coffee, and these Q graders judge it, and it's quite intense. So and each year there's a champion, and I think we will revisit the Aeropress because there are so many different methods of brewing with it. But maybe one of the times we'll take the champion. Honestly, the one from 2020, they had like a virtual one, and I didn't enjoy their recipe as much as I have enjoyed others. So we'll probably skip back in time and I haven't tried the winner from 2021. I haven't tried that recipe. But we might do the one from 2019. It was pretty good. So, let's see. Oh, hey, and Ran Can Cook has joined us, but also saying good night. So, thanks for joining, and I hope you have a good time. So, the other part of my Sunday nights that I like to share with you guys is that it is my off into the wilds treat night. And today it's almost been kind of a treat day because I had to do a lot of tasting. It's not there yet. I was really hoping to have a good recipe to share with you guys in the comments after the fact. Well, but it's not quite there. It's close. I made myself a pistachio biscotti. So, I don't know. Let's see. Anyways. It's got a green interior, and I put white chocolate on the bottom of it. It was initially, and this is one of the corrections I need to make, too big. It was a full-size biscotti, and I wound up cutting them in half because I just didn't care for the size. So, oh, and Lisa says she never knew there was a coffee competition out there. Yeah, there's actually quite a lot of coffee competitions. So, anyways, I did try to make myself a pistachio biscotti. and it's almost there. So I think that after Thanksgiving, I'll give it a couple more tests, and I think I can get it down. The issue I had today, though, was I think I put too much on my to-do because I actually overcooked them. So the bottom was a little bit on the extra dark side, which meant my second bake of the biscotti didn't dry them out enough because I couldn't leave them in as long as they might have needed at the lower temperature. Also, true to form, since I was already off kilter with my baking, then my chocolate broke, which almost never happens. But I was trying to hurry, and I used a microwave instead of my double boiler. Most people can use the microwave just fine, but not me. Of course not. If it's the easy way, then I'm no good at it. So, but they still taste pretty good. And so that was my treat for tonight. What I did to make the biscotti was I used 2 cups of almond flour. So I'm sorry, because I know there are a lot of people in this chat that don't eat nuts. When I'm testing and trying to come up with a recipe, I usually Google to see if anyone else has done it. And there are keto biscotti recipes, but for the most part, most of them I didn't care for. And we've tried them in the past, and they weren't satisfying to me. So the only answer is to take some of those, blend them together, and then tweak it to make it my own. And so what I did with these was I started with 2 cups of almond flour. I added a little bit of psyllium husk, which worked out well because the first batch I tried the last time I used xanthan gum, and I definitely didn't care for that. So I added the psyllium husk, and then I used a combination of allulose and monk fruit. Jerry's making a joke asking if he should change his name to the Eccentric Geek. Maybe. But after I added that, and then baking powder. So those were the dry ingredients. And then the wet ingredients, I used half a stick of melted butter and a tablespoon of just half a stick of melted butter. And then I mixed that together with an egg. And I have the Loran pistachio oil or extract. I can't remember if maybe it's in an emulsion, but it's a bright green. And so I put that into the wet mixture and a couple drops of almond extract. Then I mixed the wet ingredients with the dry ingredients until I made like a soft little dough, and then I added in some pounded pistachios. So, and I mixed that in, and from there it was basically following your regular biscotti sort of instructions. I put it on the parchment, and I made myself a little square, and I kind of cut what I thought were good biscotti shape, put it in the oven, and that's when I overcooked them. I used 20 minutes, and I guess I should have used more like 14. But you take them out, and you let them cool all the way. This is a normal way to do biscotti, even though these are almond flour instead of the regular way. You let them cool all the way, and then you recut them, and you have to be really careful because they're fragile. And you scoot them apart, and then you flip them on the side so that the cut sides are touching the bottom and exposed to the air. Then you put them back in the oven at like between 250 and 300 for like another 20 minutes. So that's what I did for this iteration, and I'll tell you they're still too soft, and probably because I overbaked it. And I'll show you. There's the bottom. As you can see, that's way too dark for a biscotti. But you might be able to see the color on the biscotti a little bit because it has that fun green color from the emulsion. And so that's my treat for tonight. I'm not going to eat this whole plate full. I just brought like a whole plate so you could see. I don't know. I just brought a whole plate of them. Maybe I'll eat a whole plate. It is my Sunday night. Yeah, so despite all my follies, I got the taste right. Taste good. I just need to work on the actual bake timing. And then once I get the regular biscotti down, then I can branch out and try other things and other ways to make it. Like maybe I can use a combination of pork rinds and keto chow to come up with something that's more friendly for people who don't eat nuts. You guys, I am in like some kind of heaven here right now. And Rhonda says that she does her recipes in the same kind of way. I'm super excited by Rhonda's chayote apple crisp recipe. I haven't had a chance to try it, although I have made galettes with chayote. I used Joe's coconut pie crust. Yeah, I might eat the whole plate because, yes, it is a problem, but that's why I restrict myself to Sunday nights for these kind of things. At least I try to. Every so often we have a special occasion and it becomes 2 nights. Like I will probably on Thursday, I'm obviously going to have a slice of the pie I'm making. But, yeah. Whew, I just had to take a moment. So let's talk about some issues that can go wrong with your brews on the Aeropress. So, and actually these are hints that work across the board. This can happen with any coffee where you do pressure or pressing, or even your pour overs or any kind of brew really. Some issues that happen with coffee that make people think that they don't like coffee is sometimes their coffee tastes sour. And that can easily happen with the Aeropress. And the reason that happens is because of under extraction. And that's why when I saw that the water was going through too fast initially, that I made every effort to stop that. Because I didn't want a sour cup of coffee. If you, it doesn't taste good, obviously. But what happens is that's an under extraction. It goes through too fast because, and what causes that is that your grind is too coarse for the type of brew you're doing. Or, see, I had a very robust bean, so I used a lower temperature. So it could be that your temperature's too low. If you have a really fine grind and you're using the Aeropress, you can actually really lower the temperature of your water and go all the way down to 100 degrees even. Now, that's not my preference. I find then, to me, it starts to lean into that too far, too sour. I like to do mine at about 140 degrees. So, anyway, back to that. So, if your coffee comes out sour, the next time you try it, do a finer grind of your coffee. And if that still doesn't work, then increase the temperature of your water. If you've got some more coarse ground coffee that you're working with, you want your water to go all the way to 195, 205, or even to a boil. Now, boiling is a touchy topic when it comes to brewing coffee. I tend to stay away from boiling. I do boil for a couple different kinds of brews, but those are very special occasions. So, let's see. Oh, and Christina Vickers has joined us. Hi, Christina, sorry. She mentions that Serious Keto is doing a lupini flour giveaway this week and wondered how that worked. And that is definitely something to think about. I will say that I personally can't do the lupini flour. The legumes they make me sick, so I just can't do it. but I've heard a lot of people have great results. Jerry's going out for the birthday dinner, so hope to see you soon. I'll see you next time. I think we have lives tomorrow, and it's a miracle because it's a holiday week. I don't have 9 million meetings. So I hope you guys have a great time. So let's see. Where was I at? Oh yeah, so the lupini flour. I actually think that if you can do lupin flour or the lupini flour, they will be an excellent option, and I bet that they would work out really great. Let's see, and Rhonda's asking how I store my coffee beans. Honestly, it really varies a lot. I tend to just keep them in the package they arrive in until I open it. Once I open it, then I like to make sure that if they're resealable, it really just depends. If I know that I'm going to go through them within a couple days, I just keep it in the bag. And maybe that's not the best. For someone who proclaims to be bougie, I have some poor practices sometimes. Now, if it's a very special coffee, one that is that I am like, this is my extra expensive, super special roast, then I'm going to put it into a jar or one that has a pressure seal, or even vacuum seal it back up into some vacuum bags and divvy it up into single amounts for my use so that they stay fresh. So it really varies a lot. I actually do like to grind before I brew and keep it as close to that, although our first morning cup of coffee, like I said, I have some that I ground now, that I grounded just now for the Aeropress. But I'm going to take this and I will grind some more of the same roast up and just set it up so that it auto brews in the morning. And so it's not the freshest, but it is instant, and it is heavenly to wake up to a good smelling pot of coffee in the morning and to immediately sit down and have a coffee. So that is so a variety of ways. I don't have a one true way for storing my coffee. I do have some special beans that I've saved up, and I've put them in the vacuum sealer and I've frozen them, but I will tell you that I try to use anything up that I do relatively quick, because I don't think freezing your coffee increases the longevity very long. You still need to use it up in fairly short order. Hey, 2 Crazy Ketos. Nice to see you joining us. And my coffee is still perfect, even though it's cooled down a little bit. It is just, I got lucky tonight, guys. 1 second to chew. So that is everything I had on the Aeropress, but back to the troubleshooting. The other thing that happens with coffee is the other part of sour. Instead of sour, you often hear a lot of people say their coffee is too bitter. I don't like coffee, it's bitter. And that is a super easy thing to have happen. Coffee is bitter because it's over extracted. It means a few things have happened. You ground it too fine, the exact opposite of sour. So that's why you can't use espresso grind coffee in your drip coffee maker. That doesn't taste good because you're going to over extract. The water doesn't go through it fast enough. It's just not designed for it. So too hot of coffee. If you've got a fine grind and you pour boiling water over it, that's definitely going to over extract, and it's going to be bitter and tart and unpleasant. So too fine of a grind, bitter coffee. Too hot of water, bitter coffee. You also might not have used enough water. And we mentioned earlier, and actually we've talked about it a couple times in different brews, blooming the coffee. Yeah, so your coffee absorbs water. And so when it's absorbing the water, that's water that's not making it out to the brew. So if you don't use enough water, it's going to get sucked up into the coffee, and then you not only do you have a smaller cup of coffee, it's hard and bitter. People often think that's the coffee that tastes bad, but it's usually not the coffee that's bad. There are bad coffees, don't get me wrong. I'm not exactly thrilled to drink a cup of Folgers. Arguably one of the worst coffees there is. I know that there are people who love it and are probably not real happy with me saying that, but I'm hardly the first coffee lover to think so. They have done something wrong in the roasting, and I'm not really entirely sure. But a lot of things you can do to kind of uplift it and make it a better cup. And one of the things would be changing the type of water, even maybe doing a second grind on it, because it's a pretty chunky sort of grind. I've seen people do some pretty wacky things with some eggshells and boiling the coffee, and then filtering it out. And weirdly, that's a different kind of egg coffee that we haven't talked about. Seems to work to make a terrible coffee that you want to actually pour out into a drinkable cup of coffee. So who am I to judge then? But no, Folgers is not the best part of waking up. Hungry Heath, you are wrong. He says Folgers is the best part of waking up. That is their slogan, and they are wrong. And Folgers is the biggest offender of that improper percolator. I can only say that is probably why it tastes so bad. Over extraction and too hot. So how do you correct that? Just the opposite of what we did for sour. It's weird, even though sour and bitter tend to be the same taste receptors, they're not triggered by the same way, and the solution to them when it comes to coffee are polar opposites. So with a bitter coffee, the next time you brew that exact same thing, try lowering the temperature of your water, and don't grind it quite as fine. Caboodle Brie. Why am I having trouble now of all times? Caboodle Brie says that Folgers is emergency coffee that you use. The leftover convenience store grounds aren't available. That you use when the leftover convenience store grounds aren't available. Can I just say, I've had an emergency cup of Folgers coffee, and I actually am now spoiled enough that I have determined that I would rather forego the coffee than to drink a cup of Folgers. Instant coffee is a different animal altogether. We should do a whole series about instant coffees. They are completely different. So, but it's almost like it's a whole different genre of coffee with a whole different flavor profile. So, and Heath is sharing with us that he had his second cup of coffee ever that was actually enjoyable. So, that's pretty awesome. Branching out. Could be the different ketogenic eating has impacted your taste buds enough that now that it tastes differently. Or could be the quality. So the warden mentions that that's how she feels about Dunkin' Donuts. That she won't even get the free cup of coffee from them. And I agree. I detest Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I don't understand why people are so crazy about it. It is horrible. It is just so bad. And I actually feel like we have trained people here to like a very terrible cup of coffee. What have we as Americans done to the coffee around here? I don't know, but it's not good. So, but we are very fortunate that we also have a lot of really nice stuff too. So that's good. Attila is making a joke. He mentions emergency maybe, but is it rich enough to replace human blood? And I have to say, it's too bitter, even for me. Now I have seen people talk about if your coffee's bitter, put in a pinch of salt, and that might reduce it. But while I have put a pinch of salt in my coffee, it hasn't been to reduce bitter from over extraction. So I don't know that that's really a solution. I do like a pinch of salt in my coffee, but I feel like that it's the same thing that it does with most foods, and that's that it's enhancing the flavor that's already there. I don't think that salt actually resolves issues like having too hot a brew or an over extraction. So, oh, let's see. Oh, and Caboodle Bry also says he agrees about the Dunkin' Donuts coffee. That the first time he had some, he wondered what was wrong with him since he disliked it so much. Yeah, I don't know. And actually, I kind of wonder if the love of the Dunkin' Donuts coffee is not actually their plain coffee, but that people are really going there for the heavy duty sugar and all of the stuff that they put in it. I mean, they're worse offenders than certain green and white labeled industries and the coffees that they put together with the frappuccinos, which by the way I used to love. And actually, despite a lot of complaints about coffee from the green and white location, is actually not that bad. It's not the worst coffee. It is just definitely not. It's it can be harsh, but actually if you buy the actual coffee beans from Starbucks, they're not bad, but they do need to be carefully treated. You definitely have to watch how you grind them, and you have to be cautious about how you brew it. I think I mentioned that when we talked about Turkish coffee, and whether, because people have asked, oh well, then if it's Arabica beans, does that mean I can brew Starbucks in my e-brick? And the answer is, yeah, actually they're using Arabica beans. They're dark roasted, and maybe I would go as far as say extra dark, which does bring forward that slightly bitter tinge. So you need to really watch it. You need to grind it a smaller grind, but not too fine. You don't want it to be espresso grind, but kind of like what I did today, a 2 or a 3. And you need to make sure that you use a very low temperature of water for brewing. Now their espresso blend is different, like all things. So yeah, I'm familiar with Tim Hortons. Now I like Tim Hortons. Is it my favorite coffee? No, but I would definitely drink it. Yeah, I agree that I like it more than Starbucks, and I have no problems drinking a good cup of Tim Hortons coffee over straight up black. I can drink Starbucks straight up black too. I can appreciate it, but yeah, I don't know. I do like Tim Hortons coffee. Now, weirdly, despite the fact that they say their product is the same, I'm pretty sure, and I don't have any facts or way to say this because I have never been in the know of the details behind the scenes at a Tim Hortons in the United States or in Canada, but I have drank black coffees on both sides of the fence, and I feel like the United States might be using too hot of water when they brew, because the coffee does not taste the same in the United States as it does in Canada for the Tim Hortons. The Tim Hortons in Canada, the coffee is so much better. It is miles above. So I have to say, if it's the exact same beans, it's either age because of the transportation, or it's got to be brewing method, which in theory should be the same because they are the same chain. But the United States does have a lot of regulations surrounding brew methods, so it's entirely possible that they've increased the temperature that makes it not quite as wonderful. So now Rhonda's asking about Peet's coffee. It's good. That's a good go-to coffee. I have no problem ordering Peet's. I've ordered their regular bag and their regular bean coffee, but I've even used their Keurig Peet's coffee, and it's not terrible. That's a good go-to everyday coffee. So the warden's asking if anyone's drinking Boca Java. Because they're having a sale, and I have not. Now, I will say I've also been in the minority. I haven't liked very many of the Bones coffees. I did like the carrot cake. Now, I should also tell you, if you invest in a decent burr grinder, don't put the flavored beans in your primary good grinder. Get a second grinder for your flavored beans, because the flavored oils will permeate your grinder and get into the plastics over time, and it does eventually impact your overall coffee brew. So let's see, I'm going to take another sip here. And now Rhonda's asking the warden about Café du Monde. I'm interested in the answer about that. I haven't tried Café du Monde. So I will also mention another Ohio roaster that I haven't thought about in a while, even though they're really delicious. I'm going to have to look them up again. But I used to get a coffee beans from Odyssey Coffee. They're a small local roaster here in Ohio. And actually, the way I discovered them was fun, because I actually discovered them at the SCA. They are also of a nerdly sort, and also they were interested in the SCA, and they used to come and vend there, and I spent many hours in their booth setup, talking coffee, trying coffee, making coffee, doing old Renaissance brews, and really having a very nice time. So, but they had some really good roasting methods, and they have a Guatemalan bean that is really spectacular. Now the warden is bringing up chicory root. I will say I am not the biggest chicory root fan, although it is good. So I'm super. So that's the thing with the biscotti that I made. They're still a little too mealy, so I'm going to have to work on that. I might try increasing the psyllium husk powder that I used, because it takes kind of a lot of there's a lot of chew to it. But part of that might be my problem with the overcooking in the first bake of the oven. So, so it's 7:45, and I'm almost done with my coffee. But it's probably for the best, because it's almost that we're also almost done with the live stream. So, Oh, and Rhonda says they have a standing subscription to the Cafe du Monde. Well, I'm going to have to look into that and try some of it out. So, and just so you guys know, I know some of you have mocha pots, and when I did the first live stream and we went through a lot of equipment, we talked about it, about the mocha pot a little bit, and people had questions. So that is what my topic is next week, so we can really deep dive into it, and hopefully we can get everybody doing a nice brew with the mocha pots. I think that should be a lot of fun because it's really a good go-to for a super strong little mini espresso sized cup of coffee, or one regular cup, but man, that's strong for a whole big cup. So just to round up the end with some I'm just going to go totally off topic now that we had, but if anybody has any more Aeropress questions, drop them in and we'll try to get it in this last 15 minutes. But I've already talked about it twice on the regular video uploads, but since the holiday is coming up this week, I'm curious to hear about what other people are doing and how it's impacting you. I will say we have too much food in this house. I know we'll eat it, and we normally go in cycles where we have more food because we shop like generally once a month, but I feel like it's a temptation to eat too much food. Oh, what pot did I use? It's a Bright Town electric kettle, and I know it's too small for me to get it on the camera, but it has some temperature settings over here. Really, almost all of the electric kettles have, there's a wide variety, and almost all of them are good. Like, there's not like really a crappy one, but there are some. Like, I have one upstairs that's another of our electric kettles that doesn't have a temperature on it at all. It's just for boiling water. And we use that. It's okay. And you kind of get by the look and feel where the temperature is at. So you can stop it early and stuff. But mostly we use that to boil water to pour into pots on the stove. But so this one is my go-to because it has temperatures. My gooseneck is not electric. It's manual. And you have to watch the thermostat on top of it, which is why I didn't use it tonight. So... But I did kind of feel like I might want to get the best of both worlds, gooseneck plus electric with temperature control. And because I saw that some of them, that they're starting to make more of those now. It's a wider variety and not so prone to breaking. So I might shop for one during Black Friday. So, oh, and Heath has mentioned that they're having Steaksgiving. We're kind of having Steaksgiving too, but not quite because it's going to be the rib roast. And my butcher, I don't know what I was thinking. I let him upsell me because I thought I could just cut it in half. And I should have had him cut it in half for me because I got 5 ribs worth. That is a lot for just a few of us. So I believe I'm going to cut it in half and prep one and season it up and put it in the freezer because I don't know, I just feel like that's too much for us to have all in, to cook up. Although I could cook it all up in one cook and then vacuum seal it and sous vide it to reheat. That might be possibilities too. So let's see. Oh, the warden mentions that they've got chili meat on sale, so they're going to make that for dinner Monday to Wednesday. Oh, Mary T bought some Creole brewed cacao. Oh, I'm really interested in that. I've thought about doing that, but I haven't yet. I don't know if it has caffeine either. I haven't really researched it. So, for pour overs, I tend to go with about like 195. But again, that's going to vary depending on what type of coffee you use. because if you've got a super dark, robust roast, then you might want to use a little bit lower. But if you've got a chunkier grind, then you definitely want to make sure that you are using that 195 to 205 kind of range. Oh, and Hunger, he says, oh, you guys are sous videing the prime rib roast? Wow. I don't have the big sous vide container. The sous vide that I have is my Instapot has the sous vide button on it and holds the temperature, so it's not big enough for my rib roast. And I think I'm going to put it in a smoker. Last year I went ahead and I did our rib roast in the oven, and it was really spectacular. But I've just been in a smoked meats mood, so I think it'll be easy to just throw it in the smoker and let it go. I think that'll be pretty tasty. I mean, after all, it is basically where the best ribeyes come from. So, and I'm just going to reiterate that the best thing that I love about the Aeropress is that it doesn't have grinds in it. And I'm not a person who's generally afraid to have grinds in the coffee, because pretty much all my other favorites, pour over, French press, you know, the Turkish coffee, all of them have grinds in it. Shoot, the Turkish coffee, you basically scooping off some of the silt into the bottom of your cup first. So, but this is, it's super clear. The filter is amazing. And there you go. Shoot, most of the time I have a little bit left before. But yeah, so today I did the turkey in the smoker because I love turkey. But it was both a blessing and a curse. I ordered a small turkey because I'm the only one who really loves it, and I was hoping that, you know, my family would help me eat a small turkey. And so I asked him for a little one that was going to be like 12 to 13 pounds. But you guys, that turkey was like a 23-pound turkey, and he took some money off and went ahead and spatchcocked it for free for me. Because usually there's a surcharge for the special butchering request, and he took it off because the small ones didn't come in, and he didn't want me to not have my turkey because he thought I was having it for Thanksgiving. But I don't know why he thought that, since I had the rib roast. He must think I'm having 100 people over. But so the turkey itself, as you saw, was enormous. It was almost the size of my entire stovetop, because I had to put it on the heavy-duty baking tray just to carry it out to the smoker. It was heavy. You know, normally I can elbow my way through the door and stuff, and I was like, I need someone to hold doors and open lids for me because of how heavy it was. So, oh, and he says that you guys use a large stock pot and leave it in the food saver bag. Well, I mean, I always leave it in the vacuum seal, but yeah, I don't have the wand for the sous vide. My like I said, I bought the Instapot that has the sous vide button, and that's what holds the temperature. So it's not the best sous vide. Like, maybe at some point I should invest in that in the Joule. So, and the warden mentions that she eats coffee beans. I do too. When they're the right coffee beans, they're delicious. And pre-keto, I used to eat the chocolate-coated coffee beans or the chocolate-covered espresso beans. And I'm thinking, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, why do I not get some baker's chocolate, melt it down, add my sweetener of preference, and make myself some chocolate-covered coffee beans for the holiday? That might be nice. So, but yeah, so now we have so much turkey, way more than I was anticipating. So I think that I did actually take both breasts off and cut them up, and I put that away, but I left the leg and thigh quarters whole. So tomorrow I'm probably going to have to take those apart. And I think what I'm going to do is I will make some turkey salad to go on my buns because I made some of those PSMF buns and I happen to really love turkey salad. But some of it I think I'm going to have to put into vacuum seal bags and freeze it. But that'll be awesome because, again, you just pull it out, drop it in the sous vide to rewarm it, and it sucks in. It comes out so moist and delicious. So when I freeze it, I do take a little, before I vacuum seal it, I do take a little bit of stock and throw it in there with a pat of butter. And then I vacuum seal it. So as you sous vide it and it warms up, the turkey actually reabsorbs the stock. So it comes out super moist and delicious. So that's my special turkey tip. Also, if you make a turkey for the holiday and the breast comes out too dry because you need to make sure it makes temperature, which you do, slice it up. Don't worry about it. Slice it up. Put it in a foil-lined baking tray, the kind that has the lip all the way around. Take turkey stock and pour about a cup over it. Cover the whole thing with tin foil. And I know you've already overcooked it and now it's dry. So, and I'm telling you to put it back in the oven, but I promise you, this is that super weird trick type of stuff. You pour the stock back over it, you cover it extra tight with with more tin foil, and you put it back in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. It absorbs the stock and gets re-juicy again and becomes very tender. So, oh, Hungry Heath says make some keto hot browns with chaffle buns. That sounds good too. I have not thought about that for a while, although I did take one of the PSMF buns, and I did put some pot roast with gravy over it, and that was pretty tasty. I was talking with my family, and we were trying to discuss what we wanted to do, because I was like, quite frankly, all I really need is the rib roast. But I did agree to make cheese sauce and broccoli. And they also wanted some kind of keto bread. So, and actually more specifically, there was an ask for the keto chow biscuits with cheese in them. So I guess we really like cheese. But I was sort of thinking that just your regular old-fashioned chaffle, the egg with the cheese, that might be a good option to also make some of those. But I've been, like everybody else, trying Indigo Nill's PSMF hacks, and I've got a pretty good bun going. So I might just go with some of those and mix in some herbs. So, oh, and Lisa, you do not ever have to apologize for anything here on this channel. That is not how we work here. We are friends and we all love each other, and there is never an obligation to be chatty, although it is nice. We love when people are chatty, but you are loved just being present, and that is how it goes for this particular channel. So don't even worry about it. It's not like we don't have many Sundays throughout the year where you can be chatty. And so being quiet an evening or three is totally awesome. Oh, and Hungry He says it's not a holiday meal without deviled eggs. I like the way you think. I might have to think about that. I did just get in a lot of eggs, too. Although, like I said, we have a lot of food. I don't know if we can make more food in this particular house. We're going to have to get rid of some the next few days before I make that rib roast to make some space. And then Lisa says she's having a small turkey breast for Thanksgiving, since it will just be her, James, and her son, with some PSMF sausage stuffing and some kind of side dish. Yeah, I thought about that. And we made stuffing last year using the Fox Hill croutons, and it was really tasty. I don't know, this year I am not feeling being so elaborate for just, it's not the same. And last year I cooked like as if we were still having 30 people over. So, I'm just gonna make it smaller. I mean, can't really go wrong though with an enormous rib roast. We'll be happy. And I am going to do the cheese sauce on video. So look for that. And we're hitting 8 p.m. So you missed your last chance to ask any more Aeropress or CAWFEE questions because it's time to end the stream. But I will see many of you tomorrow in the Two Crazy Ketos, Keto on the Couch. Watch Autumn, or actually no, the Weathers channel. Oh, thanks, Mary. I'm glad you feel that way because I do try, and I really try to encourage everyone to be inclusive. So, honestly, there's no time in the year where I don't want turkey. I love turkey. It's not a Thanksgiving dish for me. It's an anytime dish. So, but thanks, Mary, for saying such nice things. We really appreciate that. Yeah. So so tomorrow is like live stream central because it's the Weathers channel with Autumn and Richard, Keto on the Couch, and then Keto Chow. So we'll be seeing lots of everybody, and I really look forward to it because I don't have meetings from 9 to 11 and then 11 to 12 and then 1 to 3 on Monday and Tuesday. So I will make all the live streams. But I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks so much, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye, everyone.